Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of iWorkinSport live interview. This is number 9 already. Today we're going to talk about career and entering, getting maybe your first job in sport. If this is your first time here, my name is João Frigerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport. And iWorkinSport started as an event, as a career fair, and now we have several events, and our mission is really to help people to grow in the industry and to connect employers and talent. One thing that we've been trying to do to help you grow in your career, the way we're trying to do that lately is to creating content and bringing talented and accomplished sport business professionals to come here and share their experience, their knowledge, tips and advice in order to help you in your career. If you don't know iWorkinSport, or as I said, if it's your first time here, if you want to check out more, go to iWorkinSport.com. You can also follow us in several social media channels. So we're on YouTube, of course, where you're watching this, or maybe you're watching on Facebook. If you are, let us know where you're watching from, which country, and if you're on YouTube or Facebook, that will help us. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and on LinkedIn as well. These are the addresses, and we just also started a podcast, which at the moment we're transforming these interviews that we're doing here into podcasts. So if you don't have time to watch it all on video, you can put it on your pockets when you go running and have a listen. Now, my guest today is Adriene Bueno. Adriene is a young sports industry career coach and a consultant. She has helped already several young professionals to find the job that they love, and she's going to tell us about her experience and how she's been actually helping so many people find their passion and find the job that they really enjoy. So let me get her in. Hello, Adriene. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Hey, thank you so much for participating. It's quite early morning for you, right? You're in the US.
Yep, on the West Coast, so around 6 a.m. here.
Around 6 a.m., so you got up very early. We're just past 3 o'clock here in Lausanne, Switzerland. Let me just check. There's some comments arriving here. So, hi, Mazen from Beirut, Lebanon.
Hey there.
We have Darsh watching from India. Of course, we have Erica, but Erica is my wife, so she still counts a lot. Thanks for watching, babe. And yes, and Adriene. So again, thank you so much for participating. I gave a very brief introduction about you, just to give a bit into context. It's funny, we just actually got connected. We don't know each other sort of in person. Sometimes, I bring guests here that I've known for 10 or 15 years. We've been working in the industry together. But you, funnily enough, you got to know about the iWorkinSport event, the digital event, not so long ago, right? And actually, I mentioned to you just a week before that, I found you on Google, on YouTube. I was kind of looking for ideas, so I just typed, about how to find a job in sport, and I saw your YouTube channel, which I recommend as well to people going and check it out. I saw your website and thought, that was quite interesting, and it's super cool to have someone that's young, full of energy, and also that is actually at this moment going through what a lot of the people watching us are as well. So, I mean, it's the power of connection, the power of internet. It's just a question of, I think, reaching out So again, thank you for accepting my invitation, even without knowing me in person.
Of
So
course.
I'm very glad that you're here. And I want to start basically asking you about your journey. So tell us a little about you. How did you yourself actually started working in sport?
Yes, so when I was very young, I started playing basketball and a bunch of other sports, and I even played throughout high school. However, I never thought about playing at the collegiate level. So when I got to college, I went to UCLA, which is a Division I school, so like the highest ranking athletics division within college sports. And you guys can't tell through the screen, I'm very short. So the likelihood of me playing at the next level of basketball or volleyball was, not really an option for me. So when I got to college, I really realized that I miss playing sports. I miss being close to sports. So I kind of devised a plan on, okay, how can I stay close to sports in my professional life, even after I graduate college? So while I was in college, I joined a sports fan club at our school, and then I got a leadership position there. And over time, I gained volunteer experiences at different events, and that actually led to my first opportunity to working for Fox Sports and media. And then over the years, I started working at different sports agencies representing professional basketball players, Adidas on more of like a guerrilla brand marketing side, UCLA athletics department and their student recruiting, and then even interned at the NBA twice in New York City, 2 different times for their media department and then also their global partnerships department, which later led to my role at the NBA, where I focus on rebranding the NBA D League to the NBA G League in partnership with Gatorade. And then after my time at the NBA, I kind of got into this career coaching atmosphere, and then went on to working at EA, where I am right now, so in video gaming. So that's kind of like a very short snippet of where I started and where I am today.
And what was the sort of type of jobs so that you did right at the start? Because you mentioned a few places where you've been, Fox Sports and Adidas with the NBA. But what was actually the process? Because you graduated a few years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
And so now you have, of course, a full-time job at EA. What's your work there? What's the job title? What do you do there?
Yes. So right now I'm a content marketer, specifically within EA's subscription and memberships division. So I really focus on helping players who use our services to stay in our service. So if you think about Netflix, how people want to go watch new shows and movies that are coming out, and there's always some big promotions around it, and then when you actually go in the service, you see on the big screen like what is the newest show or movie on the service. So for us, recently we dropped FIFA 20 into the subscription services. So that was something that was like a really good project where I got to work with our FIFA team on that, and that's basically a lot of the day-to-day work that I do there.
Okay. So and then until where you are now, just give us a sense of the timeline of sort of the jobs and how long sort of you stayed in each one. And also we have to tell people that's between those jobs, or maybe at the same time where you're having those jobs, you started to help other people, ended up creating a coaching career that now you have loads of testimonials on your website. And so how did you balance that? So give us a little sense about the timeline of how you progressed and how you combine that with coaching, how you started actually your coaching job as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of timeline, when I first started college my freshman year, that was really where I started dipping my toes in the water. Like, okay, I want to work in sports. I have no idea how to get there. I don't know if this resonates for some of you watching, but I had no connections, no experience, no education on just specifically the business side of sports. So I started with, zero knowledge. I'm, first generation college graduate. There was no connections for me in that space. So I really had to kind of go after it myself, where I started networking with people in the industry who were students, who were already business professionals early in their career, who were already getting that experience that I wanted. And I kind of mapped out, okay, how did they do it? How can I do it? So that was when I started volunteering. And one event that I was volunteering at, I actually kind of got hired on the spot, because what had happened was, when I was volunteering, I ended up talking to basically my future manager, and I was just doing the hard work that was required for that specific event. However, I would say number one tip that I would give is, like, you're always interviewing. You never know who you're speaking with, or who's watching you, whether it be on social media or obviously the pandemic's going on, but even in the past or in the future, like a lot of your work may speak for itself, where those opportunities may come along. So a lot of my internships ranged from 3 months to a year. Fox Sports was around 3 months. Adidas was a year. The sports agency experience was a year, or was a 3 to 4 months. So, and then I even worked at the LA Clippers, and that would range like season to season. So each organization is different, just depending on, the role and the opportunity. However, I think the big thing to take away there is just knowing that you don't have to stay in one specific area of the business. And I think that's normal for a lot of people in sports, is to kind of jump around, because if you stay focused on just one specific organization too long, you might miss out on an opportunity elsewhere. So I'd like to just share that. And then, sorry, what was the follow-up question? Oh, yes, how I got started in career coaching. So
exactly. How then you started to combine and started a parallel sort of job and with coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So over the years, because I really wanted to get a full scope and understanding of how the whole industry worked, I had different people asking me, like, okay, how do I work for this specific team? How do I work for this agency? And at first I was just giving my advice, like, this is what I did. This is what worked. This is what resume template I use. This is the cover letter I use. Like, let's do a mock interview together. And it was just really me just wanting to help people, because I understood what it was like, to be in those beginning stages. So over time, I started seeing results. Like, people were telling me, I got this really prestigious internship at the NFL, or I got this job offer at this agency. So that was kind of the moment where I realized, like, okay, how can I really make this information more available to people? So that's when I started my YouTube channel and started creating content there. And then I also, use LinkedIn a lot. I love LinkedIn. I will always love LinkedIn, probably forever, because it's just such an amazing platform where you can share information and then also find information if you're looking for it.
Definitely. We're going to follow up on that. Just before we do, there's a few more companies. Antonio Donizetti is watching us as well. Otacílio Lima from Brazil. Marco is saying hi from Italy. And and you asked what if it was the same with our audience, people watching. I would like to ask. So if you're watching, want to leave a comment. Let us know if you already have a job in sport, or if you're actually looking for a job at the moment. If you have experience, if you don't, if you drop in the comments, just to give us a sense. That will help us here with the conversation. And also, of course, Erica leaves an important message here. Don't forget to like this video. Thank you, Erica. And we actually have 699 subscribers, so would love to hit 700 today. if you guys want to support us. Hello, there's also Jaime, based here in Lausanne, so near us. Hello, Jaime. Thank you for watching. Now, Adriene, so some people associate coaching to giving advice, and again, giving advice as to having experience, and having experience as being old. Yet you're 26 years old. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And have already coached several professionals that ended up landing their jobs. So tell us, explain why you don't need to be old to be a coach.
Yes, so I think this is a big thing for anyone who wants to share information that they might be an expert in, online. So I think the most important thing is actually really just being one step ahead of whoever you're trying to help, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone who is right behind you or right ahead of you. And even though, a lot of people might feel like they don't have enough experience to give advice on a certain topic, if you've done that thing, you have that experience. And I think that that's enough to kind of push you in the right direction to give that, give that advice to other people. And you see it on social media all the time. If you watch any how-to video, you watch that video, then at the end of that video, if you've done that thing and you got that result, you now have experience in that thing. So in that, in a way, a lot of people are really already one step ahead of someone else that they can help. And that's kind of how I look at it. Also, I think another thing is if you can repeat that result. So if you give advice on one thing and maybe it works for one person, but everyone else it doesn't work for, then maybe that was just kind of a one-off scenario. But if you can give some strategies or information that is repeatable and scalable, and you see results for multiple people, then you kind of realize, okay, I'm on the right track. This information and advice is something that can apply to a lot of other people, not just this specific individual in a specific instance.
For sure. I mean, I think that's a great takeaway. There's always people that you can help. And it's a great way to look at it. And I want to ask you, what are the main difficulties that a client or someone that looks for your services have?
Yes, so I would say transferable skills in communicating, how to transfer what their current skill set is into the job that they're looking for. Because a lot of jobs in sports, they vary. The job title varies at different organizations. It could be the same exact responsibilities, but if the job title is different, you may not think that you have the right experience. Or you look at the job description and it says like you have to have 5 to 10 years experience, or you only have 4, so you feel like you're not qualified enough to apply. I would go against that and say you should still apply, because they a lot of times these job hiring managers are putting that information out there because they want to hire someone who has that much experience, but it's not really a requirement. And even if they do say it's required, I still think that someone within that close range who has that skill set that's listed on the job description can still apply for those jobs. So one, not being afraid to still apply for certain opportunities, even if they might not have like 100% of the job description, even if it's like 90 or 75%. Like, I think that's more than enough. But the next step is really being able to communicate that story when you're interviewing with people, because I have seen clients come to me and we're doing a mock interview, and they're jumping around with their story, but it doesn't necessarily tie back into that specific role. So it's really important to kind of dissect that job description, dissect that company, and find how you fit within their org and how you can provide value back to them.
Cool. Yeah, so storytelling is very important. And as you mentioned, people must realize that any job description is basically a wish list. So it doesn't mean that everybody applying for that job will have all those things that you see listed in the job description. So if you have 6 or 7 of those, maybe that the other ones will have only 4 or 5. So it may be the one for you. So Mazen here leaves another message. He or she I work in sports marketing industry, but interested in seeing how to leverage my knowledge as career coach. So you're in the right place. Um,
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Yes, Adrienne can share a lot with you. And there's also Mr. Komni from Greece. Sorry, you're going to say something on Mazen's comment?
Yes, so I would first start with saying that the best way to leverage your knowledge as a career coach is to start putting out content. Start distributing that information on social media, whatever your preferred platform is. I lean towards LinkedIn and YouTube. I haven't posted many recent YouTube videos in a while. However, I'm really buckling down on LinkedIn and going to be posting on YouTube again in the future. However, pick a platform, stick to it, just keep creating content in that space, and then just there's going to be a lot of trial and error, because that happened with me where I post something and it doesn't get that many views or likes or whatever. But it's more important to be consistent over time and then just keep going and see what works.
Great. Another great advice, and I couldn't agree more. And it's funny how these things start to be picked up, and it's great platforms out there. Now, what I want to know is you're now working at EA, right? And before that, so you had this period in your life that you're very much invested in the coaching career, also with your YouTube channel. I noticed that I think since you started at EA, you stopped posting there. I don't know if it was just a coincidence, too much, work, or what you're planning for the future. We can talk about that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to know how that experience actually of being a coach actually helped you land the job that you have now, because you've been helping people get jobs. So what were the maybe things that you used to tell people to do that you actually had to apply for yourself? Because one thing that's is very common is that you advise people to do stuff like the way you organize your time or your room or your whatever, and sometimes you don't do that yourself. But I want to know, in your case, what were the advices that you normally give to people that also helped you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So first, I'll touch on what happened with my YouTube videos. So it's funny. Right before I stopped creating YouTube videos, I was on a podcast, and one question was, what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone? And during that time, I just said something along the lines of, your health is the most important thing. Your mental and physical well-being is the most important thing. So surprisingly, right after that time period of that podcast, I actually got really, really ill. And then, I was in and out of the hospital for a while. So going through that experience, you realize, as much as I love social media and using that platform, it does put a toll on you if you're, going through different hardships. So, for everyone who's thinking about, creating content on social media to share knowledge or experience or the expertise, know that your physical and mental and well-being is very important too. And if you don't feel guilty if you have to scale back, because that's what I had to do in that situation. And now I'm in a position where I'm like rejuvenated, feeling much better, and can start getting back on track with creating content. So then to touch on your second piece of the question, which was how did my current role at EA kind of come to be through my career coaching. What had happened was I always tell my clients to optimize their LinkedIn profile. And there's all these different little levers that you have to pull and push to make sure recruiters are looking at you. And pretty much I use my current profile as a template that my clients can work off of. So anyone who wants to go to my LinkedIn profile after this, go ahead, look at it, copy whatever, make it or replicate it for yourself and just change it to what your role and experience is. But pretty much by doing that, I optimized my profile to increase my visibility to recruiters, which was something that like I wasn't intending to do, but that's what had happened. So I actually had a recruiter reach out to me on LinkedIn, and that actually led to my role at EA.
That's great. By the way, on LinkedIn and advice on how to stand out there, how you do the star sign that you have next to your name?
Oh, I really just Googled a star symbol, and then I just copied it and plugged it right in. So I realized, LinkedIn doesn't really have like a verification check mark that other social media platforms have. So that's how I just plugged it in on mine. They do have some, LinkedIn logo for the top 20 LinkedIn influencers, which are like Bill Gates and, a couple other individuals. So that's kind of how I plug that in there. But it does, make your profile stand out a little more than someone else who just has their regular name or just their first name, or sometimes you can't even see their name. There's a lot of things that people can do to their profile to make it more approachable for recruiters.
All right. Well, if you watching have any questions to Adriene, don't be shy. Post it here and we'll ask her the questions you have. I want to actually go back to, you have a lot of useful content in your channel. There's not that many videos there, as you said. You stopped for a bit, but the ones that are there I found interesting. So I recommend that people go and watch it in full. But I think that I was thinking that we could use a few minutes here where we could maybe summarize a few takeaways or important points of things that you have there teaching people. Mm-hmm. So one interesting video I saw was 3 tips to build connections. We had a guest here a few weeks ago. So Daniel G talked a lot about connections and building your network as well. So that was really cool. But what would be your 3 main tips for that?
Yes. So before I answer that, there's a thing about content on YouTube, and even just you as an individual over time. What I knew yesterday is different than what I know today, just from learning different things. So I'm actually going to give you 3 tips that may or may not be what I said in that previous video, but over time I've learned some new tips and tricks to networking. So I'm going to share those. The first one is to be very.
If it's new, it's even better, because then they can go.
Yeah, so you guys are going to get the cutting edge stuff. Exactly. So the first one is to be extremely targeted in who you want to speak with. And what I mean by that is, if you have, let's just say, I'm going to give an NBA example. So if you want to talk to someone for the that works for the LA Lakers, and you specifically want to work in social media, you want to go to LinkedIn and you go search, go to the search bar, go to companies, look at search up LA Lakers, then specifically go to employees, and from there you can search, specifically people who work in social media. So if you just plug in that keyword, you'll see everyone that works in social media. However, you don't want to talk to someone who's at, your current title, or, maybe, whatever current title that you're aiming for. So if you're applying for an internship or a coordinator role, you want to talk to someone who is currently in the manager or director role, which may sound intimidating, but the reason why is because the person who's the intern or the coordinator may not have that influence and authority to explore new people who they're considering as candidates, which is really important, because if you want to work in a specific role, you need to talk to the right people. And that's kind of that first approach is, okay, let's identify who are those influential people and decision makers at that organization who can be that person that could vouch for me when I'm applying for this opportunity. So that's the first tip. And then the second one is to be very customized when you're reaching out to that person. So I see it all the time, and this is probably like my biggest pet peeve, is when someone reaches out to me on LinkedIn and they say, hi, I'd like to connect, or they don't even send a message at all. And there's just like, it's not even my name. They don't even say anything about like my profile. I think that's lazy. And I'm just going to say that because that's just how I feel and how a lot of other people feel when trying to connect with other people. You know, you want to always personalize that message when you're contacting people, because if you don't do that, then I accept most people who want to connect with me, but if you're trying to talk to someone at a specific organization, you have to think it in your mind like, okay, everyone else is doing it this way. How can I do it differently? So,
Exactly.
go to their profile, look at, their past experiences, a specific project, whatever, and just make sure that you mention that when you're reaching out.
Yeah, exactly. I do that as well. I do not, before you go to tip number 3, just like you, I do not accept everyone. I accept many, but not everyone that just press, that wants to connect. As you said, a short message, at least, mention you by name or something already helps. But if people just pressing connect, they don't really know who they're connecting with, I probably will not accept that connection. If I see that there's really something related to the work that I do, or they are working perhaps with some of my partners, then possibly yes. But otherwise, I'll do just like what you said. And number 3?
Yes, and then tip number 3 is to follow up. I cannot stress this enough. It is so important to follow up with the people you speak with. And it happens to me time and time again. Connecting with people, and I always tell them, follow up with me, because I want to see how much they actually do it. And, sadly, 9 times out of 10, they only follow up with me, maybe right after we talk, and then I never hear from them again. You need to think for a second, this person took time out of their day, out of their extremely busy work schedule, to speak with me, a total stranger, or maybe someone that someone else, introduced me to them. But you really need to put yourself in their shoes. It's almost like a date, and people use this all the time. Like, you go on a date with someone, you don't want them to just ghost you and just disappear. That they just spent all this time, building that relationship. You don't want it to fade away. And what I love about sports is, people think like, oh, I don't know when the right time to follow up with is. It's been like 6 months or whatever. I would say it's never too late, because in the sports industry, obviously right now there's a pandemic going on. There's no sports happening, or, there are some sports happening, but others not. If you have people at those organizations you've spoken with, you can even just follow up saying like, hey, congrats on just starting this new season. Looking forward to, what to expect. Or if there are companies in the news, and hopefully positive, then you can follow up and say, oh, I saw that you guys were in the news for this. Just wanted to see, if you had if you had some part in that project. I thought it was awesome. So just keeping that relationship alive is really important, because the sports industry is extremely small. You never know when you're going to run into someone at some place and then see them somewhere else. So if you disappear on that person after that conversation, they're going to remember that later down the road, 10 years from now, when you might have to be working on a project together. So let's just, obviously keep that in mind when connecting with people.
Yeah, for sure. And the other way around also, you can leave the bad impression if you don't do it, but you can also leave a good impression. So I had people that I helped, didn't really know in person, and sent me a super sweet thank you note, a small sort of gift or something that you find, man, I think I want to hire that person, not because send me a gift or because of a thank you note, but say, okay, this person will represent my company well. So, yeah, so I think that's super important.
And then, sorry, before we go on, I actually have a bonus tip, and this one's really, really important. The questions that you ask.
It's 4 for the price of 3. Great.
Exactly. The questions that you ask during this, informational interview or networking experience is extremely important. I would actually argue against asking, can you show my resume to someone? Or I think now in this current state of the world, it's okay to ask, is your company hiring, if you don't see anything on their job boards, just because the information is kind of staggered right now, but in the past I would actually say, don't ask people if their company's hiring. But right now I would actually say that that question's okay. But the number one question that I would actually recommend people to ask is to ask, what is the biggest challenge your company is facing right now, or your department is facing right now? And the answers will vary based on who you're speaking with, but by identifying what that problem is, later you don't have to answer that question or solve that problem during that conversation. But when you're asking that person that, they're really telling you like, oh, we're struggling in this way, or we don't know how to respond to the audience in this way. Whatever that answer might be, later down the line, after that informational interview, you can actually come back to that person and say like, I really thought about that challenge that you guys are facing, and I did some research and I found this solution, or I created this like little presentation or project or a case study on just what I've seen other organizations doing and how they solve that problem. And then you just like give that to them gently without asking for anything, and they'll see basically through that project or presentation or whatever that you have thought about what that conversation was much more in depth than anyone else. And then also kind of presenting your skill set and just how you operate as a possibly a potential employee when you showcase this information. So that is a very big tip that I highly recommend people kind of look into, because a lot of times these organizations might say something along the lines like, oh, well, you don't have enough experience, or we just don't know if you'll fit in this company. By doing that, like creating this project, you can basically solve that problem for yourself by showing them like, hey, I can do X, Y, and Z, and here it is, and you didn't even ask me for it, and just showing that you're giving the value back to them, because that's I would say that's a really big piece to it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. So I'm taking notes. I don't know if people at home are taking notes, so I'm gonna read my notes to them, because of the 3 tips that you gave. At first was to focus who you want to target, then to personalize your message whenever you reach out to them, and then of course follow up, right? So if you didn't take that note, I took that note for you. Make sure you use it. And then of course there is the one that you just mentioned, the bonus one about asking smart questions. You suggested about asking about the company's challenge that will give you resources to actually come up with something in the future that they might appreciate. Just before I go to a next question, there is another comment from Jaime here, talking about the star mark, and he sent you now an invitation on LinkedIn. So he found you there. Jaime, I hope that you just didn't press, connect button. You wrote something. So
and there's actually a trick too. If you send some LinkedIn messages and you now realize like, oh, I actually want to change that message because I didn't send something customized, you can go to send messages, and then you could revoke the request that you sent and then resend it with a personalized one. So that's a good tip.
That is amazing. That's I didn't know that. I use LinkedIn every day, and I did not know that.
Yes.
So that's great. Regina Justo is saying good morning from Brazil.
Good morning.
And here, Mr. Comney, who started his postgraduate studies at Liverpool University this year. So congratulations. He's at the football MBA. Anyway, great school. They're partners of iWorkinSport. So hopefully I'll see you at our events in May next year. I have only worked so far as a gymnastics coach. Will it be difficult to find a good internship in the UK? I mean, you're in the US. I don't know how much you would know about the UK market. If not, maybe I can comment on that.
I mean, it depends on what internship you're looking for. And you mentioned being gymnastics coach. If it's in gymnastics, then and it's as a coach, then you have the experience there. However, I
understand that they're doing he's doing the course almost like to change a few. So he's been working as a coach, so working with players, and now he wants to go more to the management side of sport.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, difficult, that'll vary just based on just a lot of different factors. I think you can just kind of increase your chances by honestly taking a lot of the advice that we were talking about in this interview, and actioning on it. However, as I just mentioned in that bonus tip, in this type of situation, you say that you only have gymnastics experience as a coach. If you want to really showcase your business experience, then I really recommend you talking to people in the roles that you're exploring, and asking, what's that biggest challenge they're facing, and showcasing them what you've studied and putting it into practice by giving them, that solution on what problem they're facing as an organization, and that'll help increase your likelihood of getting seen and considered for different opportunities.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I was just going to focus a little more on the sort of UK situation, of course, with Brexit and all, and even worse than Brexit now with the COVID thing. I mean, any job would be very difficult in sport or elsewhere, but sport, of course, if you don't have events, or if you're going to have less events from now on, things will be more difficult. But hopefully, I mean, taking a course like the one you're taking will help you. And I mean, it's Adriene's mission to help people like you. We try to do the same with iWorkinSport, not only bringing experts to share advice here, but also connecting you talent with employers, whether in our events, digital or physically here at the event we do in Lausanne. But we'll develop a few more things on our website. So just follow us, and hopefully by when you graduate, things will be better. There is, let's see what this one, Adriene, what do you think? If in case we want to work in a country who hasn't so much complex sport industry, so there isn't much job opportunities available. So basically, I think where he is aiming to work don't really offers the opportunities you'll find in the US. Anything in particular? I presume that the advice that you're giving, works everywhere. It's just there are some places have more opportunities than other.
Yeah, no? Yeah. I would say there's that's the thing about sports. There's kind of two ways you can approach opportunities here, and right now with the pandemic, everything's going digital, and everything in sports is going digital because fans can't go to games. Most fans can't go to games. Even players can't really do anything. So if you have some type of skill set that's digital that you can bring to the table, I think that's a really valuable asset right now. And if you need to take courses on that, I think there's a lot of online courses that exist out there on just getting social media skill sets. And I say that just because that's kind of where we're at. We have to be very aware of just what jobs are out there, and I think that's fine to get that experience in sports. If you really just need to stay in the market, just focusing on what organizations are actually hiring in the industries and what roles they're hiring. So that's the first thing to consider. Second, this pandemic will come, or will leave eventually. So this advice that I'm about to give may not be the answer you want to hear, but it is kind of the reality of working at sports. Is even in the United States, this is a problem. There's people who live in very small cities and like Nebraska, or I'm just giving some random states that don't have much people, but there comes a time where you need to make a decision, okay, I need to move for certain opportunities because the specific city or area has much more sports organizations. And that was kind of the case for me. I moved to New York from California because the opportunity that I wanted was in New York City. So this is a realization that a lot of people have to come to terms with, is okay, what's important to me? If you need to stay where you are and you don't have you don't want to move elsewhere, you can't move elsewhere, then recognize, okay, I need to stay where I'm at. So I need to find opportunities that are either digital or local. However, if you're looking for opportunities elsewhere and you're open to moving, then that opens the doors for you, and you could relocate to those different areas, because that's what a lot of people have to do in sports in the United States right now. And I don't know if that's the same case for you, but that's something that I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely. I think that makes a lot of sense. It is what it is right now. And what I was going to say to Ilham as well, I don't know if he's part of our, we just launched a new group community on LinkedIn, which is the We Work in Sport. We have the brand iWorkinSport for a few years, and now we think that we're stronger together. So you just joined, didn't you, Adrienne?
Yes, I did.
So Adrienne will be part of the conversation there as well. So guys that are watching or listening in the podcast later, you're invited to join the We Work in Sport group on LinkedIn, where we can continue the conversation. We're actually approaching the end, but I'm going to ask you, I had a few others, but I'm going to ask you one last question, also that has to do with the videos that you recorded. One of them, so we talked about the tips to build connections. The other one was about the 3 top mistakes people do in job interviews, and then how to avoid them. You want to give us, are those the same 3 tips, or would you have a different one?
Yeah, I had written some down, so they may fall in line. I might go into more detail. But basically the first one, and this is like the big one, especially for people starting out, is, and this is, the first mistake that people make in sports job interviews, is thinking that their passion is enough to get them the job. Everyone who works in sports or who wants to work in sports is passionate about working in sports. And it might be true that you are the biggest fan of a specific sports team that you're applying or that you're interviewing with, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best candidate for the position. And maybe you are the best candidate for the position, but being the biggest sports fan might be getting in the way of you being the best candidate in the interview, because you're just so focused on saying, like, I love this team, I love this player, I grew up watching this player, and that's why I should work for this team. That's unfortunately not enough to get you the job. So recognizing, to counteract that, how can I tell my story of being passionate about a specific sports team or company, and translating that into my career journey? So again, this goes back to that storytelling element. How can I, communicate what I'm interested in this company for, and why I'm the perfect candidate for this role? So that's the first one. And that actually kind of weaves into the second mistake that a lot of people make, is not being able to translate their skills within that 30-minute, 15-minute interview. So everyone says, have your elevator pitch down. What's your story? What's how did you get to where you are today? A lot of people say, again, I grew up watching this team. I loved this experience. Now I work at this company. However, they miss the last element, which is like, and this is why I'm trying to go into this specific organization. This is why I'm trying to take my current skills and bring it to where you guys are. So connecting that last piece of, this is why I'm a good fit for your company, is going to be very important to setting the tone for the rest of that interview. And then the last one I would say is to have great questions when you're interviewing with these people, because a lot of questions might be, what's your favorite part about working for a company? And I actually do recommend you ask that question. However, they kind of leave it there. Other great questions include, getting very specific. So let's say you did some research and you found out that the company that you want to work with did a really great, marketing campaign on what's happening in the world with the pandemic, and racial injustice, or whatever that might be, and then you can even speak to that in the interview and say, what have you guys been doing for employees or fans during this time, and getting very very specific about those questions, because those questions stand out much more than, other ones. And again, I would even recommend you ask, what's that biggest challenge that you guys are facing, and kind of take that approach of like, okay, how can I, make a solution for them, or just, come at it a different way than what other candidates are doing, which is like, what's your favorite part about working for a job? Like that question's good, but it's not enough. You want to have, like, I would say 4 to 6 questions that are very specific to the person that you're even interviewing with. You do your research on that person that you're talking to and say, what led you to where you are today? I saw you were working at this company last, and now you've been here for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. What's so great about this company? So.
Yeah, well, that's great. Great tips. Took note again, just to summarize to our friends watching home. So yeah, definitely very important. Passion is not enough. Everybody's passionate about sports, especially if you're applying for a job in sports. Connect the why, right? You are the right person for that. So you have to get your story ready. And yeah, asking questions is definitely very, very important. It's the same when you have when you're doing a course and someone comes and presents for an hour and then nobody has any questions. I think it's almost disrespectful with the presenter as well. And yeah, it's a genuine way for you to show interest. There is a few more questions, but we're actually coming to an end. I'm going to just mention that who's that? Vedant Shinde. I hope I pronounced that correctly. What skills and knowledge together in order to become an expert in sports marketing? We did cover some of that. I will recommend that they join the conversation there at the We Work in Sport, unless you very quickly want to address that, or
I could quickly touch on it. So if you're, trying to be an expert in sports marketing, my first step is do research. See who is already doing really great in sports marketing. So, go to Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever, look at people who work in the sports department at the senior level, see their trajectory, and then see what type of products and skills that they developed over time. And then just aggregating that information and recognizing like, okay, this is, what these companies are doing, or even looking at job descriptions and seeing, oh, they want this specific skill set at these companies. That's a really great way to kind of approach it too, to identify what type of skills you need. And this can apply to any type of job.
Exactly. And one thing is that expertise also comes with time. It's different than the approach that we're talking before, that you can always coach someone just by them knowing a little less than you, so you're already able to support them. But that doesn't mean that whatever area you're covering, you are an expert, right? Some people say that you need 10,000 hours doing something to be considered an expert, or how many hours there are. So time is important as well, dedication. Rogier, no, thanks for your tips. You did inspire him. So, and Mazen as well had a question that you answered. So thank you. It was a great session. Thank you for watching. Adrienne, I'm going to say bye to you. There was something that perhaps you wanted to mention, because you said it was quite important, the topic of personal branding. I think you touched a little on it when you were talking about YouTube and not YouTube, sorry, the LinkedIn profile, and how you tailor your image there as well in your profile. But is there another maybe key pointer that you want to address on that topic?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say, figure out who you are and what you stand for. So for me specifically, I like to help people who want to work in sports. So that's what I do on LinkedIn. That's the content I engage with. That's the content that I post. So when you're also on LinkedIn or different platforms, just be very cognizant of, again, who's watching, because you never know. And your personal brand can speak for itself in a lot of ways, but you also need to develop and nurture that. So make sure that you're following content that follows. I follow a bunch of hashtags. Some of them are just hashtag sportsbiz, and I literally have that in my newsfeed on every platform, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, because I want to be constantly seeing that information and engaging with that information. And then over time, people realize like, oh, okay, she does a lot of stuff in sports. She does stuff in sports business. And when you follow stuff like that and engage with that content, those companies are seeing you. The other day, I was actually talking to someone who, like the CEO of Hashtag Sports, and we were having this conversation. And he, at the end of the conversation, I told him, I do some career consulting, blah, blah, blah. And he said, like, I know, I've seen your stuff on YouTube. I've seen your stuff on LinkedIn. And that like blew my mind. I was like, wait a second. People, are seeing your content, and if you're posting on social media, just everything that you post right now, even if you don't have a personal brand, that is your personal brand. So just be aware of just what you're posting online, because people are going to associate that with you.
Yeah. One of the sessions that we had at iWorkinSport, I think it was last year, was a little controversial even, because we had a panel with recruiters, and someone asked in the audience if the recruiter, would go and investigate their Facebook or Twitter, their social media that are not LinkedIn, right? So it's not professional thing. Some people see that as personal, and at least one of them say, yeah, we go and we see that, and I think if your profile picture shows you being silly and drunk, it will count against you. Even if you're a very good professional, it will definitely count points against you. So it's important. Some people don't agree with that, so they shouldn't even look at it. And okay, that's the point. But the important thing is that you must be aware that recruiters look at it. So you can either just complain or you can learn from it and make sure that you don't hurt yourself. So I don't know, do you have time for one more?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know if this is your line of expertise, but another one here from, I'm saying Mr. Comney, or I don't know if it's just Mercomney. So maybe you can help me translate, you who's posting the message, and tell me, I want to find out how to say that. Anyway, is it possible through sports industry career to become staff recruiter? Don't know if you have to be in sports. There's definitely that line of work in the industry for sure. But any comments on that?
Yeah. So I would say that when it comes to sports, like, because there's the business side to it, I would say every opportunity that might exist at a normal organization that's not sports related is very applicable to sports, because there's the business side, and then there's the actual like player operation, game operation side, coaching, whatever. But in terms of being a recruiter, that's definitely possible. Though I know plenty of people that currently work in HR at different sports organizations, and they got experience over time through internships, again through volunteering, through networking with different people at these organizations to create that opportunity to work in HR.
All right. Yeah. So I hope that the question is answered. We're just approaching the 1 hour mark. Thank you so much, Adriene, for doing this. I'm going to ask people that are still here and watching, if you liked and want to show Adriene your love, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Good news is that we passed our 700 subscribers mark. So thank you. To you, people watching at home. Let me remind you, if you want to see a bit more about us, you find it at iWorkinSport.com. And as I said, on LinkedIn, we have the We Work in Sport session. Let me just put this way so I don't get covered. I want to remind you of our social media channels. We're basically at iWorkinSport everywhere except on LinkedIn, where you need a /company/iWorkinSport to find us there. And if you're into podcasting, or if you just got this from halfway through and would like to listen to that at some other point, we will be posting we're a little late actually with podcasts, but you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and on Google Podcast. This is it from me today. I want to thank Adriene again for waking up very early in Arizona and spending this hour with us. Thought was super useful. Thank you so much, Adriene.
Yeah, of course. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm in the We Work in Sports group, so I'll see you there.